The Derek Chauvin verdict backfires as police resignations across the nation surge. In this video, we're going to take a look at the fallout from what many are calling mob justice, how it exemplifies the triumph of resentment politics in Democrat-dominated cities, and how the surge in police resignations is only end up hurting the very people Democrats claim to help. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Wonderful to be with you. As always, we're here to give you each and every single day conservative hope in the midst of these turbulent and trying times, helping to think better so you can feel better and provide you a patriot path to freedom. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Before we get into it, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that's the makers of this beautiful, this awesome fighter flare flashlight. You are going to absolutely love this. One of the best things you can invest in for your protection when the lights go out is this 6-in-1 beauty, which comes with a 3,000 mAh solar-powered recharging battery. It's equipped with a high and low beam light that you can see from miles away. It has an emergency strobe light. It's got a compass. It's got a wire and rope cutter, an emergency glass breaker hammer, and on top of it all, a high-powered military-grade magnet. It is absolutely awesome. And best of all, if you click on that link below right now, you're going to get 20% off the regular price. But supply is limited, so do not wait. Click on that link below and get your super awesome fighter flare flashlight today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. The fallout from the Derek Chauvin verdict continues. As you know, the Derek Chauvin trial came to an end yesterday. The jury, which consisted of 6 white people and 6 people were either black or multiracial, handed down the verdict of guilty. They found Chauvin guilty in all charges. He was found guilty of 2nd-degree unintentional murder, 3rd-degree murder, 2nd-degree manslaughter in George Floyd's death in May of 2020. We're now awaiting sentencing, which can take several weeks. But in the meantime, many pundits are pointing out that there are very credible grounds for challenging how this jury may have been influenced by the saturation of coverage of the trial, as well as the rioting in the area. There's no question that there was a combination of an intimidation campaign as well as a information warfare and a direct attempt to influence the jury's decision. It seemed to work, given the extreme verdict that seemed to take no notice of all the countervailing evidence. According to Fox News, the defense will indeed argue for appeal on the basis that Chauvin did not get a fair trial for a number of reasons, including pretrial publicity, failure to change the venue, and intra-trial publicity, including the incendiary comments made by Representative Maxine Waters and even potentially comments made by Joe Biden. In fact, the whole public ethos of the trial reached frankly absurd heights when Nancy Pelosi went so far as to actually thank George Floyd for dying. Did you get that? Nancy Pelosi actually said, I kid you not, she actually thanked George Floyd for, quote, sacrificing your life for justice. Even leftist liberals found those comments to be utterly and disgustingly ridiculous. Huffington Post editor Philip Lewis responded, Nancy Pelosi thanks George Floyd for getting murdered. Far-left Guardian writer Hannah Parkinson tweeted, he didn't sacrifice his life. He was brutally, horrifically murdered. What the hell is this? But my favorite comes from journalist Anika Rothstein, who said of Pelosi, quote, this type of lunacy is what happens when you view people as nothing but pawns for your cause. And that nails it. That's precisely what's going on here. When all is said and done, the greatest tragedy in all of this is that real people, real, genuine, oftentimes well-meaning people are all getting used as pawns by our permanent political class. We've talked about the significance before in other videos of what's called resentment politics. Okay, it's a very important term to remember in order to understand the nuances of what's going on here with the Derek Chauvin trial. Resentment politics. The woke left today, led by Nancy Pelosi, majors in resentment politics. And the key here is that resentment politics intentionally creates internal division within our nation. Resentment politics actively and deliberately creates an internal enemy within our nation. At least since the 1960s, leftists in our permanent political class found that they could benefit both politically and financially if they divided our population by focusing not on an enemy on the outside of our borders like Ronald Reagan did, for example, with the Soviet Union, but rather by focusing on an enemy from within. So the Democrats have been masters at pitting the American population against itself, particularly by exploiting racial resentments. They've learned that they can prosper politically and financially by demonizing their political opponents as white supremacists and deplorables and racists and bigots and Neanderthals. All the while, they do business in the hundreds of millions of dollars with regimes like China that actually deny their citizens the right to vote and commit genocide against portions of the respective populations they consider dispensable, right? So make no mistake, all of this that's happening right now is all by design. Our permanent political class intentionally seeks to foment racial division so as to reap the political and financial rewards. And you know what I'm talking about in terms of financial rewards, right? We talked about this last week on one of BLM's founders who's raking in millions upon millions of dollars and spending it on a rather lavish lifestyle. So resentment politics pays. That is, if you're in the permanent political class. But what if you're not? What are the ramifications of this racial resentment fomented among the public at large, as we saw on display in that jury's verdict? What are the long-term consequences of this left-wing mob justice? Make no mistake, a major message was sent by that mob justice jury yesterday. If you're a police officer, particularly if you're a white police officer in a Democrat-monopolized city, that jury sent you a message. We're coming after you. You're not safe. The citizens of this Democrat-dominated city do not have your backs. If you make a mistake, if you end up in an altercation that takes the life of someone who's black or of a minority ethnicity, you're going down. We're going to take you down. So needless to say, I don't think you have to be a genius to figure out at least one of the major consequences of this form of mob justice. Obviously, the record number of police resignations that we've been seeing sweep across the country is only going to skyrocket. I mean, we ain't seen nothing yet. Look at these headlines from just over the last several months. This has already been going on as of last summer. Look at this. This is primarily in blue states from Newsweek. As police officers across America quit, homicide rates rise in America's biggest cities. Oh, that's good. That's smart. Obviously, the one thing we want out of all this social justice warrior stuff is more people murdered, don't we? Or take this from the far left Philadelphia Inquirer. Across America, cops are quitting. Here's why that's bad for public safety. Well, thanks, Philadelphia Inquirer. Thanks for spelling that out. Yeah. Obviously, we Neanderthals, we deplorables can't make that connection there between the demise of policing in our nation and the implosion of public safety. Too bad your racial narrative that you pump out of your propaganda rag 24/7 helped in destroying public safety. Oh, and yeah, CNN, the most distrusted name in news, quite literally, given their embarrassing ratings, by the way, they had to chime in on this one too. Police officers across the U.S. have quit their jobs in recent days. Here is where there have been resignations. Well, thank you, CNN. Now you're giving us a map of where we can now gauge our chances of becoming a victim of violent crime. Here are the cities you need to avoid, brought to you by your friends at CNN. Here's one from City Journal. Police departments on the brink across America. Cops are quitting. We could go on and on and on. If you're a Minneapolis resident and you want to guarantee that your city collapse into total and complete societal ruin, then you are applauding yesterday's Derek Chauvin verdict, because such a verdict is only going to further alienate police officers from Democrat-run cities and exacerbate the already skyrocketing crime. I need not remind you the ultra-left Minneapolis City Council just a few months back voted unanimously to disband the Minneapolis Police Department and replace it with some kind of nebulous community model. They never explained how such a model would actually work, but it didn't matter. Crime skyrocketed throughout Minneapolis. Things were so bad in this Democrat-run monopoly that you actually had the Minneapolis police chief a few months back officially announce that the citizens of Minneapolis actually ought to expect to get mugged and robbed. People thought it was satire. They thought it was from the Babylon Bee. And so the Minneapolis City Council, the very council that had originally voted to fund the city police department just a few weeks back, voted unanimously to approve over $6 million in additional funding for the police after a massive backlash against the defund the police efforts. But it's all too late! What police officer in their right freaking mind would risk their lives in a city like Minneapolis that's so horrifically hostile to law enforcement? The cultural Marxist genie has been let out of the bottle. Resentment politics are at an all-time high. And so the residents in Minneapolis and Democrat-dominated cities across the nation continue to vote these far-left lunatics into office. And given those factors, there's simply nothing that can be done to stop the societal rot that's overtaken our nation's urban areas. Welcome to the new normal. Welcome to the societal rot that is the Democrat Party. And the irony of it, ironies in all of this, is that it's the urban residents who keep those leftists in power that are precisely the ones who are suffering as a result. Now, before you go, make sure to like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel. Definitely click on the link below. Check out some of our awesome merch, and you definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded. It's on how a brand new website is inviting parents and teachers to expose classroom radicalism as public school enrollment across the nation plummets. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.